What's up, Goon Squad? Welcome back once again to yet another exciting edition of the Football Goons podcast. We are so close to the 2017 regular season. I don't know about you guys, I can hardly stand it. I mean, we're inside of 10 days from the kickoff night. Today, we as the Four Goons are going to put our money where our mouths are. We're going to hit you with our official predictions for the 2017 season. I don't want to name any names, but one of the Goons, I'll say a particularly brilliant goon, was able to correctly predict last year's Super Bowl champion of the New England Patriots. I won't name names. He's a very attractive man. He's got a beard. He tends to wear Eagles hats from time to time. And it's not South, all right? So
Are you kidding me?
I nailed that last year. You guys were all over the Bengal train and the Cardinal train. We'll completely ignore the fact that I was also on the Cardinal train as the NFC champion. They failed to even make the playoffs. So what we're going to do here tonight, in a second here, we're going to run through our predictions, the 12 playoff teams, our final four, and then the teams that each of us individually see lifting Lombardi Trophy on February 4th. We're then going to give you a couple individual award predictions, including a couple for fantasy. And then finally, we're going with one outrageous prediction, each of something completely off the wall that could actually happen this season. We had a whole podcast dedicated to that last year. We're just going to hit you with one each this year quickly. Guys, there's a ton to get to this week. We're going to jump right into this. However, a few things happened this weekend here as far as the preseason games that really do affect fantasy. We want to touch on that for those of you who tend to tune into us for your info there. A couple of major injuries. If you haven't heard, it's because you don't care and you're not paying attention. Wake up. Lucky for you, if you haven't had your draft yet, this wouldn't affect you. I guess it could still affect you on the pre-ranks. If you've drafted already, some of you've gotten screwed. We have lost receiver for the Patriots, Julian Edelman, for the season to a torn ACL. We've lost Chicago Bears wide receiver Cameron Meredith to a torn ACL. And it looks like reports are coming out that we're going to be losing Chiefs running back Spencer Ware to a PCL injury in his knee requiring surgery as well. So just kind of bounce around the room here quickly. What does this do to you guys as you're drafting your rankings, et cetera, other than the obvious those three are no longer draftable players?
I think something really important that a lot of people misconstrue, and Miles, you said it to us earlier this week. Don't automatically assume that because Julian Edelman goes down, that the next Patriot in line is just automatically going to get Julian Edelman production. I think I do love Chris Hogan because he seemed to form a chemistry with Brady last year, but Chris Hogan is not the type of receiver that's going to come in and catch 100 balls from Tom Brady the way Julian Edelman did. So don't make that mistake. Well, next guy up. It doesn't really work like that. So keep that in mind when you're actually updating your pre-ranks lists.
Yeah.
Right. Thoughts on Kareem Hunt? He's kind of the big one. I think a lot of people are now like, what do I do with this guy?
Yeah, I already kind of thought Kareem Hunt was going to be a good running back and going to take over. But I will mention the thing I'm most thankful of. We don't have to talk about Spencer Ware this year.
Right.
I'm so sick over the last several years of, is this guy good? And then last year he had decent production, but really came in 3 pretty good games. And then everybody's like, oh man, Spencer Ware this year. Now we can stop. Just stop. Probably, hopefully forever. Forever will be good for me.
I think the thing with Kareem Hunt that jumps off the page to me the most is just that the Chiefs' backs in general under Andy Reid seem to really have a good fantasy season. Steele, I know you don't like Ware, but Ware came in and Ware was on a lot of playoff teams last year. And he gave you a little bit of added production that people weren't expecting. Now he really bit the dust in the playoffs, but
so was Tim Hightower.
But my point is that Chiefs running backs in general under Andy Reid tend to have a little bit more upside. And if you already thought Kareem Hunt was going to be pretty good and take over that job anyway, now he's got it from day one. So that's a guy that you might target and might get a steal, in the 20s or early 30s.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind too with Kareem Hunt. An Andy Reid running back in the last 10 seasons. I read this today. It was somewhere on Twitter. In the last 10 seasons, 9 of them, Andy Reid running back finished in the top 10 in fantasy running backs.
Pretty amazing.
So he's going to be relevant. I mean, he's going to have the volume, and as long as he holds up, he could produce huge for you. So it's worth keeping your eye on.
Char West, dude.
Charmander?
The Charmander West.
Yikes. And hidden in this, it's not going to get a lot of press. I love Kevin White as a late round flyer now.
Yeah, me too.
Who knows if he stays healthy? Bears, you're not thinking of as an aerial attack, but I mean, they're gonna pass sometimes. Someone's got to be there.
Once should do it.
So I mean, I'm not counting on the other guys on that roster. So Kevin White, good little late round flyer. The shame of it, I think, for Hunt is you can no longer steal that guy. Last week I had a draft. I took him in about the 10th round, and that's obviously not going to happen at this point. So I just wanted to throw the bone out there to the fantasy guys. So let's get into our predictions. I tend to be a little bit like Deal here, particular with things. We're going to go alphabetically.
I like it.
AFC first, then NFC. In the divisions, East, North, West, South, West, wild cards. I struggled with that there a little bit. All right, so AFC East, this should be a pretty quick discussion. Who do we feel like is going to be the AFC East champion? We're going to Rocco first because why not?
The Jets, baby. Oh wait.
Mute.
Are we talking? Wait. Are we talking about? We're talking about the first overall pick, right?
We are not. We're talking about the AFC East champions.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, no brainer. If any of you says anything other than the Patriots, I'm driving to your house and punching you in the throat because that's what I do.
Yeah, you're right. It's a no-brainer. It is the 15-1.
Wow.
New England Patriots. I don't even have another team at or above 500 in that division.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he said 16-0 wrong.
I agreed with you, South. I said 15-1, and not only did I say 15-1, I said the rest of the division combined for 6 wins.
Wow, that's dreadful. I'm definitely higher on Miami than it sounds like you guys are. By no means does that mean I think they're going to contend for the division crown. This is Brady's once again, or if I'm not mistaken, 16 out of the last 17 years. They're on an insane run. I mean, part of it's because the other 3 teams just haven't been real great, to say the least. But think about that in today's world of sports.
Ridiculous.
Somebody to go on that kind of run is nuts. So I think we're 4 for 4 on the Patriots. I don't think we need to touch a lot on it. I think the only other question I'll ask, should somebody else surprise and contend? Anybody other than Miami there?
No, the Jets and the Bills are trying to out-tank each other.
Right.
So at this point, it's going to be Miami.
Yeah, I mean, to get into next April's podcast early, we're talking about Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. And I think 2 of those players are going to be in this division next year. It's a matter of where they're going. And, you got Rocco's already looking forward to April. He doesn't have much to look forward to in the next few months. So that's good. All right. So we're 4 for 4 here. Patriots across the board. Do I have I'll say this for the listeners. I guess I didn't really say that. We did go through NFLPlayoffPredictor.com, and you can literally pick every game, and it gives you your standings. And that's what we did to do this. It's not just a guess. I have the Pats at 13-3. Do I think they're the worst team out of the 4 of us?
Yes.
Okay. How much does that say? That at 13-3, I think they're the worst.
by a lot.
Right. By multiple games.
Let's be honest. Obviously, there's a possibility that they could lose some games. But if you just look at like the straight head-to-head matchups, like the toughest matchup would probably be like the Raiders, but it's in Foxborough.
Right.
So, I mean, I think they should be favored in every single game that they play this year.
Right.
Yeah, they will be. All right, so we all have New England in the playoffs. Let's just move on here to the AFC North. Let's go to Deal here. Who do you have as your AFC North champs?
I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 12-4, just in a tiebreaker win against the Bengals.
I also have them at 12-4 as the division champion, but I don't have any tiebreakers. I think it's pretty decisive.
I'll jump in. I have them at 11-5, and not as much of a landslide as the AFC East, but still far and away the best team in that division.
Yeah, I have Pittsburgh too. So this has basically been a pointless exercise so far. Again, I'm lowest on them. I have them at 10-6. as my 3 seed, still winning the division by 3 games, but only 10-6 for the Steelers for me. Reasons you guys think they're that good? I don't think that's a 12-win roster.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I think they benefit this year from being in the division. I think the Browns, we all agree, are better, but I think the Ravens are dreadful, like absolutely dreadful. And I think the Bengals are just, they're not that good. That defense got picked apart in free agency, guys that are just old now and, really have no business trying to guard the wide receiver core of the Steelers. So, I think the Browns are really the only team that could really give them a run. I may be overlooking the Bengals a little bit, but
I'd say
I don't know. I just don't think they could play any defense. I really don't.
I agree with you, South. Unless the Browns could maybe surprise somebody in Cleveland, against the Steelers, there's no reason why they shouldn't go 6-0 in this division. These 3 teams are just not very good.
For me, the Bengals, I still think are pretty good. They went just 2 years ago. They went 12-4, and they have essentially the same team with a better offense. So, I mean, I don't think their defense is very good.
The line is awful.
The line got worse, and the defense got old.
But their offense got significantly better. So I just think that, I don't see any way that they're not, like you're saying, they're not a 10-win team. I think that's crazy when they were 9 last year. That they're not 1 game better than last year without AJ and Dalton playing well?
You don't even want to hear what I have them then.
I mean, you can be wrong. I don't mind. Like I make a habit of being right when you're wrong, but
I mean, I have them as a 5-11 team. Honestly, look at their defense. Go on
listen,
right now.
Listen.
Look at their defense.
Didn't you listen to Miles' agenda? The ridiculous statements comes at the end. Just hold it.
Okay, but Deal, I do have to correct you. They were a 6-win team last year, not a 9-win team last year.
I'm sorry. Yes, they were 6-9. I'm sorry.
6-9.
Yeah, I have them.
I think they're 1 game worse than they were last year, and I also have them at 5-11.
Ridiculous.
I do have them at 7-9. I think they're better. I mean, AJ Green alone is worth 2 more wins.
Yes,
but I do have Cincy and Cleveland both at 7-9, fighting that out. But I think we've drug on the Ohio discussion long enough. Long and short of it. We do all have Pittsburgh, so kind of 4 for 4. What I expected to this point, and I actually won't be surprised if we agree here in the next 2 divisions. But let's move on to our AFC South champion. South, let's send it to you here for this one.
All right. Well, while I have Deal Matt, I'll just pile on here.
Dang it, South.
I have got via a tiebreaker the Tennessee Titans at 11-5. They inch it out over the Texans, who are also 11-5. I think it's going to be a really competitive division, too. I should just say that right out front.
Yeah.
I'll jump right in. The 12-4 Tennessee Titans. 12-4. Mark it down. Mark it down.
Yeah, please do, Deal. Write that down.
Yeah.
Write that down.
I'm going to go ahead and not write that down.
Yeah.
But I'm going to skip
No, write it down so that at the end of the season I can prove you guys I was right.
We'll still have this documented for the fact that you're not right. So I went ahead and I picked the Texans, unfortunately. I picked them in 11-5, also tiebreaker over the Colts. I picked the Texans to go 10-6, but I reserve the right to say I picked the Colts to go 11-5, and I think Andrew Luck's going to play. If Tolson is our starting quarterback, I think we're going 12-4 and win the division.
Wow. I'm writing that down.
All right. I do have Tennessee at 10-6 winning this division. I do think it's a close division. I'm surprised how low I was on Jacksonville. I had them at 6-10. I just don't think the schedule works in their favor. I think they're a much better team than 6 wins. But I didn't love the way the schedule broke. Yeah. Thoughts on Jacksonville? I know no one has them in the playoffs, but
I felt the exact same. I had them 6-10, and most of it's because of their schedule. I do think some of it's Blake Bortles. If he comes back around, I actually think that this could be a 4-way race. Yeah. But I don't see him coming fully back around, at least to as much as Blake Bortles comes around. So yeah, but I do agree they're a solid team, but schedule bites them hard here.
I think schedule plays a major factor for me too. The one thing I noticed in this is that like I don't have a lot of teams in the middle of the pack. I either think either these teams are really good or they're not really good at all. And unfortunately, the way Blake Bortles plays quarterback, I think the Jaguars are not very good at all. So that's kind of where I sit with that.
Yeah, it all comes down to the quarterback play for me, honestly. And I think Bortles is really going to struggle. I think that mentally he may be fried, and that concerns me quite a bit. I think that if they played Chad Henne from the University of Michigan,
Stop it.
they'd be a little more competitive.
They would not.
But they're not going that route. So
there is a reason.
I can't tell you how much I hate when you do that.
All right, let's move on to the West here. So let me refresh. The South, we had 3 of us on Tennessee and 1 on Houston, correct?
Correct.
Deal was in on Houston. Okay.
Yeah.
So majority Tennessee for sure. In the West here, I'll go first. I had the Raiders winning this division here at 10-6. And this is kind of the opposite of the Jags for me. I think they're way better than a 10-6 team, but this division is loaded. And it's going to be tough for – I mean, if anybody comes out of that 5-1, 6-0, they're going to dominate. But I think we've got a lot of splits going on in the West, which is going to hurt them seeding-wise for sure. But I do have the Raiders winning the division at 10-6.
I'm a little bit higher on the Raiders than you. I do have them at 12-4 also. I just think that they're really going to – I think having a balanced run attack in Marshawn Lynch to go along with, Carr and those weapons, and that defense is getting better and better. There's no reason why they can't continue what they did last year.
Yeah, I actually have them at the same record. I have them at 12-4. I have the Chargers at 10-6 behind them. But like you said, this is going to be one of those divisions where I'm not shocked at all if any of them come out. They're all talented rosters, and even if the Chiefs end up winning the division, you're like, yeah, it's what the Chiefs do. They just figure out how to win with what they have. So, yeah, but I have the Raiders at 12-4.
Yeah, while I'm on a roll of, kind of crazy stuff here, Rocco mentioned before that he has a lot of like really high win teams and really low win teams. This division is one of the biggest reasons why I'm in that same spot, because I think there are 3 teams in this division that win double-digit games. I actually have the Raiders with 2 losses in the division and still going 14-2.
Wow.
I think they are that good. I think the one thing that they were really missing was a running attack. I think that they're going to be able to establish that this year. The offensive line is dominant. The defense should be very good on paper. And even with 2 tough losses in the division, I think that they are a 14-win team.
Wow. That baffles me. That doesn't smell 14-2 to me. I got to tell you, I think Carr's a little bit overrated. In a sense, like, no, listen. Hear me out. Not in a sense of like, I don't think he's real good, but like, he's not a 14-2 quarterback.
Yeah, and I can agree with that, but I think that, like, honestly, like the rest of the team around him, like, can you find a more complete roster from top to bottom?
Very good roster. It's very, very good.
That's what I think. If we just are hinging it all on on Derek Carr, not David Carr, don't hinge it on David Carr.
No.
If we're hinging it on Derek Carr, I'm not really sure because we've only seen him on that team with a really talented roster around him, but he still has that. So,
right. Fair enough. We'll see. So all of us on the Raiders at different levels, but what?
I was just going to say, like, they were a 12-win team last year, and I think they got better. So I don't know how you don't think they could be a 14-win team.
I know, and this is funny because it's completely opposite of what I said a few months ago. I'm not as high on Lynch as you guys. I don't think he's that much of an upgrade at this point. I want to see him play. The guy's 31 and hasn't played in over a year.
Yeah,
I want to.
No, I know, but that. I agree with you.
You hear the name Marshawn Lynch, and you're like, oh, my God, with that line, he's going to destroy the world. Maybe.
Well, I think that's what it boils down to more for me is, like, Lynch is better than Latavius Murray right now, and I don't care what the question is, right. And that line is so good.
Right.
You know what I mean? So even if Lynch is subpar from what we saw the last time he played, it's still better than Latavius Murray.
Right.
So,
right. Well, I guess we'll find out here. 14-2. All right. How about our 2 AFC wild cards? Let's just kind of bounce around here. We'll start with Rock again. Tell us your 2 teams and kind of why you see each one coming out of the mess that is the AFC here.
So I'll give it to you in order because, like Miles said, we literally played every game out. So this is my exact order: Chargers at 5 and Texans at 6. 2 teams I'm really high on. Texans, the quarterback situation definitely scares me, but they had nothing last year and they still managed to make the playoffs. That defense is so good. And by the way, JJ Watt's back. I don't know if you guys know that. So, with that being said, I don't see any way that they can't get to double-digit wins and get into the playoff push. I'm actually a lot higher on the Chargers than I thought I was. But when you just look at it, like Phillip Rivers he's just good. 4,000 yards is an every year occurrence for him now. The weapons around him are getting better. Melvin Gordon should shine with Anthony Lynn as his coach. And that defense really started to improve in the second half of last year once Bosa came on board. So there's no reason to think that they can't get better as well. So I have the Chargers at 10-6 and the Texans at 10-6, both making the playoffs.
All right, South, what do you got?
Yeah, I've got the same two teams in the same order. Chargers as the 5 seed, the Texans as the 6. So with Rocco and I agreeing on that, it's sure to be wrong. But I got them both as 11-win teams as the wild card teams. So a lot of wins. It's very top heavy for me in the AFC. A lot of different on the NFC side, though.
I have both tiebreaker losses. I have the Bengals at 12-4, Colts at 11-5.
Okay. Any specific reason you went with those guys? You just think they're good, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're about the 5th and 6th best teams.
All right.
in the conference.
Man, I'll tell you what. If the Bengals win 12 games, I will eat this cup on air.
That I will write down.
Okay, I have one question. I have one question before we move on to the NFC, and this is kind of unscripted for us. I'm curious to know, when you guys are playing this out, as good as we think a lot of these teams are, and South, you said it, like you have a lot of double-digit win teams. How many 4-win teams or less did you come across? Because I think the bottom of the AFC is really, really bad.
Yeah,
I only have one.
Really?
Yeah.
4. Just the Jets?
Yeah, the Jets are at 2-14 are my number one pick. But outside of that, I don't know. I tried really, and I'm not trying to say that you guys didn't do this or whatnot, but I really tried to take – this took me forever, like way longer than it should have. And I tried to take into account the ebb and flow of a season. You know what I mean? And bye weeks and this and that. And for me, like when you look at any season, it's very rare to have like 6 11-win teams and 4 4-win teams. It doesn't happen. So I kind of tried to – I think it still worked out that the teams I think are best won divisions, but like my wild cards are the Chargers and Broncos. Rocky said we're going to move on to the NFC. I think I should get a chance to go.
Sorry. I thought you went already. My bad.
Yeah, Chargers and Broncos for me are both 9-7, and they won out on a tiebreaker over the also 9-7 Texans. I kind of think the AFC for me, I guess I just feel differently. I think it's kind of a big muddled group outside of New England, Pittsburgh, and Oakland for me. And the Oakland thing, like I said already, I think they're better than a 10-win team. But I do have Chargers, Broncos going there to the wild card. 3 teams coming out of the West, and it baffles me that I have the Chiefs at 6-10. Like that, but like somebody has to get last place in that division, and it worked out that way. But kind of like Deal said earlier, the Chiefs win 12 games and win the division. I'm not going to be like, what?
Right.
I won't be surprised at all. So basically what we have as a group, we're 4-4 on New England, 4-4 on the Steelers. 3 of us have the Titans winning the division. Deal, you don't even have them in the playoffs. And then we're 4-4 on the Raiders winning the division. 3 of us believe Chargers get in, and then 2 on the Texans. We have a Broncos, a Bengals, and a Colts. So kind of wide open. I think we kind of have the same expectations in the AFC. We'll get to what shakes out in the playoffs in a little bit. So let's move on to the NFC here, guys. Get some division winners. Get our playoff games. Yeah, we didn't even get to our NFC podcast. So this is the first time we get to talk about the superior conference this season, which is nice. Let's start out here in the NFC East and see who we have winning this division, keeping in mind last year was the Cowboys. The last time – this is kind of crazy – the last time the NFC East had a repeat division champion was the 2003-2004 Philadelphia Eagles. So it's been 13 years since a team repeated in this division. So who do we have as the champ? We'll throw this out the Deal here first.
Yeah, I have the Eagles winning it at 10-6.
All right, Rock, who do you have?
I actually have a 3-way tie, and with tiebreakers, I have the Eagles at 10-6 winning the division.
Yeah, I've also got the Eagles at 10-6, so hopefully this is a good omen for them. We're going to go for year number 14 with no repeat division winners.
Because why not?
Yeah, I have Philly too. I have them at 11-5, and it feels very homery because that's my team. But like when I look at the landscape, I think there's the least amount of turmoil around that team. So I mean, Dallas, God only knows who's not suspended at this point. I can't even keep track. Yep. You know, Washington doesn't want their quarterback, even though he's a top 10 player. And I've been saying the same thing since, like, I don't know, it feels like 1983. I don't trust Eli Manning at all unless he's playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I mean, like, for me, the team just has the least question marks, which is crazy with a team that has so many question marks.
I kind of agree with you in that same regard, but did you hear the breaking news that the Giants actually decided to start 5 turnstiles along the offensive line instead of the actual players that they had?
I have heard
they'd be better.
Right.
I'm going to give a shout out to my brother because he called me today and told me how nervous he was that Zeke is going to miss time and that this suspension is going to get upheld. And I think that's the whole reason why I don't think the Cowboys can repeat, because if he misses any time at all, this division is going to be too tight this year for them to have missed opportunities without Zeke in the lineup. I mean, the defensive suspensions are what they are. Their defense is not good anyway. Their offense kept their defense off the field last year, which is why they were able to, you know, but if Zeke misses any time, this is not a good look for them. I will say that if somehow he gets to play this whole season, I will probably bump them up to the division winner.
Yeah, I think a weak defense already, and losing Anthony Hitchens hurts a ton. He's just one of those guys. They're all over the league, and I mean, you could almost just say he's a linebacker because, generally speaking, if you're not an edge rusher, nobody cares about you if you're a linebacker. When the truth is, those guys are critical, and Hitchens is a really good player. So we'll see what happens there. We are 4 for 4 on Philly here, but I think similar to the West, I'll kind of speak for the group. I won't be shocked if it's Dallas or New York. I'll be a little surprised if it's Washington, I think, but this is another division you could see all 4 winning this thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the North here. I'm going to go first just so this team gets into the lead before you guys say the wrong thing. Minnesota Vikings are absolutely winning this division. I have them sitting pretty at 12-4 as my number 1 seed in the NFC.
I quit. No, I'll kind of get Rocco back down to earth here because I could see he's real hot about it. I actually have I've got the Vikings. I've also got the Vikings with that configuration just backwards as a 4-12 team.
That's ridiculous. That's not true, right?
It is. I just do not think their offense is good at all. I really don't. And I may be wrong about it, but I just don't think that their offense is very good. I think you saw what they truly are in the second half of last year, and I think that's going to kind of carry over. And I've got the Packers 13-3 winning the division. They're just hard to stop. And like, you always wonder, like, when does the not having defense catch up? And it just doesn't matter because there's no quarterback in the league that if you give literally a tenth of a second on the clock can still score and beat you. So, until that is gone, I've got to go with the Packers.
All right. So the two of you were so on opposite ends. Now I'm actually calmed down a little bit because I think South is being more ridiculous than Miles. I have the Vikings at 9-7. I think the run game is good. I know the line is shaky, but I think the run game is going to be improved. Sam Bradford still can't throw the ball any further than any one of the 4 of us. And although that defense is good, like in this day and age, you need a quarterback to throw the football. You know who does have one of those? My division winner, the Green Bay Packers. I think they're far and away the more Aaron Rodgers team in this division. And I'm just going to leave it at
that. That's a superlative now. That's what we're going with.
That's what I'm going with.
I also have the same record for the Vikings that Rocco has, except opposite. I have them 7-9. I have the Packers winning it at 14-2 because that's the right answer, Miles.
So basically, as a group, we are 8 games different on the Vikings, but we think they're a 500 team. So we got 4-12 and 12-4, and 7-9 and 9-7. So
you think they're going 19-0? So
well, listen, I don't want to belabor it. No, Sam Bradford can't throw the ball down the field. I think they're perfectly set up for that, though. So I mean, it'll catch up to you at some point, but I think we glossed over it. Yeah, they have a good defense. They have an incredible defense.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible defense. So if Sammy Sleeve and listen, let's just shorten it up. This boils down to how good I think Dalvin Cook is. I think he's an incredible player. I think he's a difference maker, and I think he completely changes that offense from pretty bad to above average just by one player. So when I put an above average offense with what I think is an absolutely elite defense, I think it's a better roster than the Packers. Not particularly close, but obviously Aaron Rodgers over Sam Bradford's slightly different. But just as a full roster, I'm on Minnesota. So we're 3-1 there. I'm okay with being the 1. I'll look pretty good in a couple of months. How about our NFC South champion? Another one where it's a very competitive division. They've sent the Super Bowl representative from the NFC for 2 straight years. Who do you guys have winning the South?
I have the Panthers coming back and going 11-5. I think that Cam's going to return to Cam. That's probably the best way to put it. And I think that it's a close division. I think that the Falcons are still really good. I think the Bucks got much, much better. And I think they're all going to just try to outscore each other. But I think the Panthers are going to be the ones to do it.
I also think this is going to be a very high scoring division. I think that, I mean, I know this you guys, I love the youth, the younger defense in Atlanta. I don't think that we're going to see a Super Bowl hangover from them like we saw from the Panthers. I actually like them to repeat in this division. Now, I think it's going to be very, very close. I mean, I have the Falcons at 11-5, the Bucks at 10-6, and the Panthers at 10-6. So I think it's going to be very, very close. But I just think that there's too much talent there. And after the way it happened, if they would have lost a close game because it was a close game, then I think that you could see a hangover. I think they're going to come out on fire and like they're going to be not let anything like that happen to them anywhere near that. You know, like that's the furthest thing from their mind is moving on from that game in February.
Yeah, in this division, I don't have any team under 500. So this is how highly I think of the teams in this division. It's going to be close, but I think that the Falcons are going to win the division. I think they're going to go for 12 wins, which might seem like a lot, but I think they go 4-2 in the division. And I also agree that they're not going to have that Super Bowl hangover. I think that, you know, everything they've said so far has shown me that they've taken the necessary steps to move past that and build toward and continue building on what they did. So, you know, I'm buying in 12 wins.
Yeah, I have Atlanta winning this thing as well. I do think I have one team below 500, but it's the 7-9 Saints. So I'm far from believing that the division's weak. I just think Falcons a little bit above. I totally agree, Rock. This is kind of what I said on our podcast right after the Super Bowl, and I haven't changed my mind. The way they lost it, you had it. You had it won. So to me, that's a different thing than we've seen. I don't think they're going to suffer from a hangover. I do have the Falcons sitting pretty here at 11-5, winning this division. Panthers and Bucks not far behind. So we're 3-1 there, 3 on the Falcons, deal rolling with the Panthers. We'll get to that in a second here. Let's talk about the NFC West. South, who do you have winning the West here?
Yeah, this is a top-heavy division. I've got 2 teams with double-digit wins. I've got the other 2, you know, kind of, you know, near the bottom of the conference, although I do think the Rams are a little better. But I have the Seahawks with 14 wins, 5-1 in the division. I love the Seahawks this year. I think that they're set up nicely. You know, they're getting healthy again on the defense. So this is going to be a scary team. Some questions at the running back position, but I mean they kind of have a guy at that spot that fits every role that you could need. So I don't think you're going to have like a dominant player there. You're just going to have they're going to play the hot hand. I love the passing attack. I'm all in on the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'm also very high on the Seahawks. I also have them at 14-2. South, it's starting to really bother me how much we've agreed tonight, and actually how much we've agreed in general the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
You know what it is?
We had that nice ride home together. I think that's what it boiled down
It
to.
was that quality time.
We spent 27 hours in traffic in a car together. So
this is extremely top-heavy division. You know, I have also the Cardinals with double-digit wins. I have the other two bottom-feeding. I think the Rams could be better, but it all hinges on Goff at that point. So I'm not saying that they're going to draft top 5, but I could see them being down in that top 10 range, and then 49ers.
Oh, that was a robot. That was a robot that just happened.
A lot of robot
A
action.
robot took over Rocco's microphone, and I picked the Seahawks to go 15-1.
Whoa.
Yeah, 15-1. I think they're significantly better. I think the receiving is back to being really, really good. Again, you know, it's not much for namesake, but I think the receivers are all solid. And I love Jimmy Graham to really take over there. And not my bold prediction, but I think that he has a good a chance as anybody to be the best tight end in the league this year. And Russ is looking like he gets better and better every year. So, yeah, I picked him to go 15-1 and win the division by a lot.
Yeah, I have Seattle. I'll make it 4-4. I have them winning the division. 12-4 for me. That's probably a little bit of me not wanting to get crazy. If there's an NFC team I can see 15-1, it's Seattle. So I do have them. So we're 4-4 across the board there with the Seahawks winning the West. I would venture a guess that we have the West standings exactly the same across the board too, with Arizona in second, the Rams in third, and then the Niners bringing up the rear. Although I will say the Niners – is anybody going to be shocked if the Niners are that, like, I'm not saying 11-5, but could they be that turnaround team this year?
Yeah, absolutely.
they could easily win 7 games because they've got a very friendly offensive system that, you know, if you go in and execute it, you could be very dangerous. So
I love Shanahan.
You know, they could easily win 7 games.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about our wild cards here in the NFC. 2 teams here, a 5 and a 6 seed, go up with our division winners. Theo, go ahead. Who do you have as your wild card teams in the NFC?
I have the Cardinals going 13-3. Part of that is just because they play with the Seahawks. And then I have the Buccaneers going 10-6.
I wonder if there's been a 13-3 wild card team ever.
It's going to happen.
There you go. Write it down.
Bold prediction.
All right, South, what do you have?
I've got the Cardinals at 10-6 as the 5 seed. I've got the Buccaneers at 10-6 as the 6 seed. Two really good teams that I think just kind of have the inconvenience of being behind 2 teams that I think are 2 of the better teams in all football. So, you know, they're still getting into the dance.
I have the Cardinals, and I have the Buccaneers, and I have the same records that South just said, and something has to change. I can't keep doing this with you, South. I can't.
In that 27-hour traffic jam, we just held hands and sang Kumbaya the whole time.
Not shocked at all.
All right, I'm going to continue to buck the trend here. I guess it's my night to be Mr. Different Guy. My wild card teams are the Packers and the Giants. I have the Packers at 11-5. So certainly agreeing with you guys that it's a playoff team. We won't get back into the Minnesota because I can't make you guys be right. But I then have the Giants at 9-7, winning tiebreakers with both Carolina and Tampa Bay at 9-7. So I think all 3 of those teams are there. I have the Cardinals at 8-8. It's kind of Carson Palmer, really. Like I don't trust him to be back. Also, I know we all love David Johnson, but the defense got a little worse. Not much, but a little worse. And Carson Palmer is still the quarterback.
13-3.
They're 8-8 because David Johnson is the GOAT until Saquon Barkley gets drafted.
Oh boy.
Let's move along.
All right, yeah. So let's recap our NFC here. We got all four of us think Philly's winning the East. NFC North, all three of you guys are on the Packers. I'm going Minnesota, but I do have the Packers as a wild card. In the South, we have 3 on the Falcons and 1 on Carolina, and all four of us like the Seahawks in the West. Wild cards, you guys, Cardinals and Bucks, Cardinals and Bucks, Cardinals and Bucks. And I'm adding in the Giants as a playoff team as well. Interesting deal. You don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. Is it a Super Bowl hangover thing for you, or just
part of it? I think it's the Super Bowl hangover, and then part of it is just that division is just going to score maybe the most points ever scored in history. And I have them also going 10-6, but you can't make it in a 10-6 when there's a team going 13-3. So
right. All right. So before we get into our Final Fours, we're going to throw it over to South here with a word from our lovely sponsor, Gorb.
Yeah, listen, guys, I got to tell you something. I'm hungry.
I'm always hungry.
I know what you're thinking. Dude, it's like 10:15 Eastern time on a Tuesday night. You're not supposed to eat this late.
I wasn't thinking that.
But I'm not talking about being that kind of hungry. Although, you know, sometimes I do get that kind of hungry at this time, but that's a different story completely. I'm talking about how in life you only have 2 choices. You could either get hungry or you can be hungry. And that's the beauty of Gorb. You know, we encourage you to check out our sponsor at GHORBH.com to find out more about what this whole motto is all about. But for us, I know, you know, we had to decide to get hungry when we started this podcast, and we're continuing to be hungry. We want to be the best fantasy football and NFL podcast that there is. And it's going to take a lot of work to get there. And Gorb is all about finding and identifying what your dreams are and then going after them and making sure it happens. And, you know, I can get behind that motto. I can get behind this sweet gear, all right, that, you know, is making me look good, making me look slim, comfortable. You know, they've got something for everybody. So check them out, GHORBH.com. All kinds of great gear for when you're lounging around watching NFL games this season. You'll be comfortable, you'll be fashionable, and you'll be constantly reminded to get hungry or be hungry.
Excellent. So speaking of hungry for championships, we have picked out a Final Four here, AFC Championship game and NFC Championship game. So let's hear of those 12 teams that we picked to make the playoffs. Which ones do you think are going to get to Championship Sunday? Let's go Rock first. Let's hear your AFC Championship game. What do you have?
I'm going to be honest. I'm very boring this year. I told you I think that there are set and cut teams, and I didn't pull any punches. I picked the favorites. So I have in the AFC, New England versus Oakland. My 1-2.
And who do you have winning? Let's hear a winner as well.
I straightforward, cut and dry. I picked a better team. So I have Tom Brady and the New England Patriots returning to the Super Bowl because nobody can stop them from doing that.
All right, South, who do you have?
Oh, man. I've got the exact same AFC Championship game.
You guys are like brothers.
We are stepbrothers. Listen. I've got
you big curly-headed monster.
I've got the Raiders going into Foxborough to play New England, and I think that's the difference. You know, New England at home that time of the year. I think that they'll end up beating the Raiders. The irony of this whole thing is that earlier in the season, I have the Raiders giving the Patriots their only loss of the season. I just think that when it comes down to it, you're not going to beat #Tommy in January in the elements with the Super Bowl on the line. So I've got the Patriots.
Deal?
I have the Patriots over the Steelers. The Steelers can't win in Foxborough like most teams. So,
right. Yeah, I'm with New England over Oakland. I'm in on that one. And for me, it's a quarterback thing, Brady over Carr, kind of by a lot. And it's a shame because I do think Oakland's probably the best roster in the AFC. But #Tommy.
#Tommy.
All right, so we are 4 for 4 for 4 with the Pats in the Super Bowl. 3 of us over the Raiders, 1 over the Steelers. Let's head over to the NFC. We're going to start with Deal this time. Deal, what's your NFC Championship game?
I have the Seahawks over the Cardinals, and it's going to be a lot of wins going into that game. And
Say so.
yeah, I similar to nobody wins in Gillette except for the Patriots. Nobody wins in Seattle except for the Seahawks.
You have it a 6-3 double overtime game?
Oh, yikes.
Gosh, I hope not. I can't even.
I'll piggyback on that. Somebody does go into Seattle and win, and I think it's the Falcons, but that's in the divisional round. I actually have Atlanta not only going into Seattle and winning, but then the next week in the NFC Championship going into Philadelphia and winning. I have the Falcons over the Eagles in the NFC Championship game as the 3 and 4 seeds.
That would be certainly interesting, but I've got to tell you, I went chalk here. I have the Packers going into Seattle and losing in probably the game of the year, if we're being honest. So I've got the Seahawks beating the Packers in the NFC Championship.
And I have the Seahawks going into Green Bay and losing to the Packers, giving the world what we finally want, a Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers Super Bowl.
Who wants that?
Everybody but you. Everybody
Packers
but
so
you.
Ugh.
Your irrational hatred of the Packers is just astounding.
Disgusting. Hey, man. Blame Brett Favre. All right, so
He's
That doesn't
dead.
make sense. Don't you talk ill of the deceased.
so I hear 2 Seahawks, 1 Falcons, and 1 Packers headed to the Super Bowl. So let's go ahead and pick that winner here. Let's hear from the 2 who have New England and Seattle going at it again. Who do you have winning here, Sal?
I've actually got the Seahawks knocking off Tom Brady and the Patriots. I just think that if there's going to be a team that could do it and has the defense that's built to do it, it's probably the Seahawks. Just being opportunistic and being able to basically match up with anything that Brady and the Patriots throw at them. So I've got the Seahawks as the Super Bowl champs.
I actually went back and forth about 12 times on NFL Predictor, and I ended up landing for this on Patriots over the Seahawks, but that's going to be a coin flip to me. I agree, and your argument makes sense and why I kept going back and forth. That defense is obviously on paper should be better than the Falcons, so that they should be able to hold on and beat the Patriots, but you never know.
All right, Rock, hit us with Patriots versus Packers in apparently the greatest Super Bowl ever played. Who wins?
You know, I really don't care for your sarcasm. Especially when I'm about to pick your all-time favorite player, apparently, to get one for the other thumb. As many as any franchise has. And any other franchise has. Tom Brady's getting number 6. And then hopefully that'll be the end of Tom Brady.
He's not going anywhere.
I know. I'm going to pick him again next year with the Super Bowl.
All right. For me, I have a rematch here of the Patriots and the Falcons. And mistakes will not be made again. Atlanta is going to destroy them. This will be not double-digit, a 20-point victory for Atlanta in the Super Bowl over the Patriots.
Wow. Bold prediction.
Atlanta's an 11-5 team for me. I think they're going to start a little bit slow, but I won't be surprised at all if they're about 2-3 and they just go to town all the way through February. The defense is so much better than people want to give it credit for, and the offense, what else do I have to say? I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think Atlanta is going to have one of those seasons where it's like people are screaming Super Bowl hangover, and then they just roll. So I have the Falcons over the Pats. So to recap Goon Nation here, we have 4 different teams, right? Oh, no, we had 2 Patriots. 2 Patriot champions with Deal and Rock. We have the Seahawks in South, and I'm taking Atlanta to win the Super Bowl. All right, so let's get into just a little bit of individual discussion here, some awards that we think are going to happen here. Let's start off with the Big Daddy, the season MVP. Maybe just list your guy, give a very short reason why. South, who's your MVP?
It's Tom Brady. I just think that if you're going to have a team that's going to win 15 games as I have them, he's got all the tools, even with Edelman going down, to potentially, break some major NFL passing records in a single season. I would not be shocked at all if he does it. So he's going to put up a ton of stats, a ton of wins. It's Tom Brady.
Okay, Rock, how about you?
I want you to know that I'm continuing to pick the Patriots in the hopes that my bad
Juju.
history of Juju, my bad Juju for teams eventually catches up. I feel like if I just name enough Patriots that are going to win championships and awards, eventually it just won't happen. So with that being said, Tom Terrific, hashtag for season MVP.
All right, Neil, who's your MVP?
I unfortunately have the same answer as those guys. Tom Brady, for obvious reasons. He's not a bad quarterback, and he's not on a bad team, and he's not going to put up bad stats.
I guess I might as well continue being different here. I'm going with Russell Wilson as our MVP this year. Seattle, I think, is going to have a great year, like we've all said. Wilson's healthy, and I think he's going to be on a little bit of a mission after he kind of feels like the forgotten great quarterback right now because of last year's ankle injury, and people are just thinking, Russ kind of is what he is now. No, he's really, really, really special.
Yep.
And now as a healthy player with a great complement of weapons, and obviously the team success is going to be there in my opinion. So I'm going with Russell Wilson as my season MVP. So 3-1 there, Brady against Wilson. Offensive player of the year, does anybody have a different player than your MVP? Mine's the same.
Mine is different.
Mine is not.
Mine is different.
Okay, so go ahead through. Let's go deal here. Who is your offensive player of the year?
I have David Johnson as offensive player of the year. He's going to be this is not my bold prediction. I think it's just normal. He's going to be the third player ever to get 1,000 and 1,000.
Rock, who do you have?
Man, eerily similar. I was going to say the exact same thing. David Johnson, I think he could actually do, I think he's going to be like a 1,400-yard back and then a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yep.
I've got Le'Veon Bell, and I will reserve comment for just a little bit later.
Okay. All right, so we have 2 on Johnson, 1 on Bell, and I'm sticking with Russell Wilson there as my offensive player of the year. How about your defensive player of the year? This has been a kind of a two-man race for a few years. Rock, who do you have as that?
I'm taking one of those men.
Have as that. Yeah.
No, you don't. I don't think you do.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Who?
Khalil Mack.
You were right. No, honestly, well, here's the thing, and as much as I JJ Watt's definitely my guy too. I would pick JJ Watt to play quarterback for the Jets, to play running back for the Jets, to play wide receiver for the Jets. JJ's definitely my guy, but we just saw how good that defense is without JJ Watt, and coming back, he can absolutely make a difference. But Khalil Mack is the heart and soul of that defense. And not that JJ isn't, but without Khalil, I think that defense is way worse. And we're going to see that this year. You know what I mean? So that's why I picked Khalil. Not because I think he's going to have way better stats than JJ, but just because of the importance that he plays to that defense.
If JJ Watt played quarterback for the Jets this season, I would have picked that division to win more than 6 games.
All right, Sal, who do you have as your defensive player of the year?
I also went with Khalil Mack. I just think the supporting cast around him is going to benefit him huge. How do you try to double team him with all the other weapons that they're going to have now? So you can't stop him one-on-one. He's going to have a ton of sacks. So I just think that he's a monster. He's unstoppable. He's going to win it.
Okay, deal.
Yeah, I picked the other guy. I picked J.J. Watt to win it. He's coming back. He's coming back with a mission. Now he's coming back I think he always plays with a chip on his shoulder, but now people are talking about his little brother, and although he's patting him on the back, he doesn't like that. So I think he's going to play with even more vengeance. I picked J.J. Watt.
He doesn't like it when the attention's not on him.
That's right, exactly. Even if it's his brother, it's not on him.
Yeah, kind of a two-man race here. I think it's kind of short-sighted, I guess, to just pick the guys who keep winning it, but there's a reason those guys keep winning it. I'm going with Khalil Mack as well. I think he's going to break the sack record. So
Yikes.
you're going to get that if you break the sack record. So
I will say this, and just because I always wanted to quote this on podcast, I'm going to quote J.J. Watt. If you're going against me, it's going to be a bad time. So
I feel like Khalil Mack could probably say that as well.
Yeah, but he hasn't yet. So,
all right. So another 3-1 here. We're kind of on the 3-1 train tonight. 3 on Mack, 1 on Watt. I don't think any of the 4 of us would be surprised if the other guy wins it, though.
No.
How about some rookies here? Let's go offensive rookie of the year. I'm going to jump in first. I'm going Dalvin Cook. That should be obvious based on what I've talked about on Minnesota already tonight. I think Dalvin Cook's a really, really special player. I think he's going to end the season top 5 in all-purpose yards. And Minnesota's not going to score a lot, but he'll get most of them. So I'm going to go with Cook as my offensive rookie of the year. South, who do you have?
Yo, Leonard Fournette, offensive rookie of the year. I think, Dalvin Cook is right there. I just think that when it comes to scoring opportunities, I think that Fournette is going to be able to cash in just a few more times. I know Dalvin Cook has that dual threat aspect to him too, but I kind of like, as crazy as this sounds, the Jaguars offense just a little bit better, at least on paper. So, Fournette, offensive rookie of the year.
Dalvin Cook's going to get like 140 catches. It's got to count for something. He might break the receptions record.
Have you seen Leonard Fournette play football?
I have.
He said the NFL was so easy.
Yeah. On his 3.4 yards per carry. It's as easy as it is for Jeremy Hill.
But it also does take longer to heal in the NFL. So
right.
It does.
If he gets hurt, you might be done for a while.
All right, Deal. Who do you have as your offensive rookie of the year?
I'm picking him not to get hurt. I pick Leonard Fournette. I think that it's a close race. I love Dalvin Cook. You guys know I wanted the Colts to draft him forever. But, but I pick Leo.
Okay, Rob.
I have a fun game we can play. If you had to bet on who you think I would say, who's that
Christian
guy?
McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey every single time. Listen, I could absolutely see Dalvin Cook. I purposely didn't pick him because I knew Miles was going to, and I wanted to be difficult. No, I love all 3 of these running backs. It's going to be one of these 3 guys. I don't see any way it's not one of these 3 guys. I think, honestly, just because of the way they're going to use him, I don't actually think that he's more versatile than Cook, but I think we're going to see more versatility out of CM than we're going to see out of Cook because he's limited with what their offense does.
Right.
I do just have to say quickly, you said you don't see any way it's any of those 3 guys. Marlon Mack is right there too. I mean, eventually he's going to be the guy there.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have a ton of opportunity. So not to discount him and not to discount what you're saying, but just to keep in mind.
The only reason is exactly what you said. He's going to be there eventually. I think you can't give it to a guy who's going to wind up maybe starting like maybe even less if they wait too long to get to him. I think the other 3 are day 1 starters for their respective teams.
I'll throw a hypothetical. I have Cleveland at 7-9. If that comes true, how much is DeShone Kizer in the conversation?
If they go 7-9, I pick DeShone Kizer. I change my vote.
I mean, that'd be the closest to the Super Bowl the Browns have been since like 1985.
And the reason they would get there is because of DeShone Kizer.
Right.
So yeah, if that wasn't even a joke. DeShone Kizer, he was my probably second vote because I think he's going to make Cleveland that much better, and I think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback.
Well, Minnesota hosted the Super Bowl in like '91. That's pretty close to Cleveland.
That's close.
So.
You're right. Still Lake effect.
Yeah.
I'm not. Man. I'm out on Kizer. Even as a Notre Dame guy, I'm 100% out on Kizer. I watched that preseason game versus the Giants last week. Dude's got happy feet like crazy. He can't just sit still and be in the pocket. And maybe that'll change and maybe that'll get better. But with exactly what you guys said, just because of the way the NFL works, we watched Dak Prescott win an award last year that he shouldn't have won. So why not give it to Kizer for a 7-9 season?
Quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes might get it just because he was good in the preseason. You never know. They love quarterbacks.
It's ridiculous is what it is.
All right, real quick, just the name because I think this is the biggest crapshoot one. You have no idea what's going to happen. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Rocco, who do you have?
You guys are on my brain. I'm picking Derek Barnett. I think he leads all rookies in sacks.
Okay, Sal.
I agree. Derek Barnett. I think double-digit sacks for the rookie.
That'd get it done.
Yep.
Deal, who do you have?
I'm going to pick. I'm picking Foster. I just watching him in the preseason, he's looked like he really has something to prove because he should have really gone top 5 in this year's draft, and he looks mad about that. And he's the type of guy you don't want to play against when they're mad. So I picked Reuben Foster.
Yeah, we're going to split this one as much as I would. Hey, if it's Derek Barnett, I'm going to be thrilled to death, but I'm going Reuben Foster as well. As an inside linebacker, I mean, the plays are going to be there to be made, and he looks just like he did at Alabama, which is incredible. I mean, this dude slides because of rumors or whatever it is, and San Francisco got a steal and a half right there. I love Reuben Foster. So,
yeah.
All right, we're going to switch this. We got 2 awards for fantasy. We were actually going to skip this one, the Fantasy Player of the Year. We were basically just saying, who is the guy that you want to own? As we logged on, I said, hey, we're all going to have the same guy. Let's just get rid of that. And Rocco said, yeah, it's David Johnson. And Dio was like, yeah, it's David Johnson. I was like, well, of course it's David Johnson. And South was like, I'm going to be difficult. So, South, Florida is yours for about a minute. Tell us why in the world you don't think David Johnson is going to be the number 1 player in fantasy.
Yeah, and you know what? Part of this is just like a total crapshoot for me because it starts with having to play 16 games. But if Le'Veon Bell plays 16 games this year, I mean, I don't think anybody would be shocked if he didn't perform better than David Johnson. I mean, he's in an offense that by all accounts should be better. He's utilized somehow even more than David Johnson is. I think his quarterback play, at least at home, is more consistent. He's very involved in the passing game. I know David Johnson is as well. But, I mean, this is a guy who just literally every time he touches the ball, he could score. And I know that Johnson is that same way, but, like, I guess my hesitation there is that I don't necessarily trust what is up front for David Johnson the same way that I would for Bell. So, it may be just like grasping at straws or whatever with that, but I just think if Le'Veon Bell plays 16 games, there's no way that he's not the best fantasy player.
Yeah, that's kind of the if for me.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is funny, like everything we say about David Johnson, the Cardinals have put it out in the media, but who here is going to be surprised if Le'Veon Bell is a 1,400-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver? Like,
nope.
I won't be surprised at all. So
nope.
It's probably a games played thing for me. So, all right, our last one here, Fantasy Breakout Player of the Year. So kind of switching gears into sleepers a little bit. Who's somebody that we're talking about now? I'm not talking about like an 8th-string receiver for the Packers, but give me a guy that's on most teams or in most leagues. He's been drafted. And this time next year, we're going to be talking about him. It's about a 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick. Who do you have here, Deal? Let's throw it to you first.
Yeah, we talk every year about the guy I have for my asterisk guy. And this year, that guy's Paul Perkins. I think I own him in every league I'm in so far. And I want it that way because you can get him late. He's one of the later guys you can get as the number 1 running back. And last year when he finally got a chance, last game of the season, they gave him 20 touches when they realized that they don't have any other running backs on their team. And I think they're going to keep realizing that. He had 102 rushing yards, had a really solid game. And I hate to always point back to college, but the dude was a monster in college. 2015, he had 1,585 yards and 15 scores. 2014, he had 1,773 yards and 11 scores. And he's a really good running back. So I like them to try to start leaning on the running game more. I love Paul Perkins this year.
Well, Brock, who do you have as your guy?
I love rookie running backs. I love all of them. But I'm going to go deep down the board here. And I'm going to look at a guy probably was the 2nd best running back on his own college team, but that's only because he shared a college team with Joe Mixon. I think Samaje Perine has an absolute chance to break out in that Washington team. I don't like Rob Kelly long-term for them. I don't think they do either. And he could absolutely be one of those guys who comes in and starts the season just by vulturing touchdowns because of how strong he is, and then eventually takes over the job later on in the year and gets the bulk of the rushing. So, yeah, that's my breakout candidate for the year.
South, who do you have?
I gotta pick this game up because your 2 breakout guys are due for like an acne breakout. All right. So Willie Snead, until somebody listens to me banging this Willie Snead drum, Willie Snead is the guy. He caught 69% of targets that came to him last year. He's going to get more targets this year from like the most accurate quarterback in the history of life. All right. He's a 1,000-yard guy this year. I don't see him getting anything lower than 7 touchdowns this year. You've got to jump on board with this guy. He could absolutely be a home run for you for where you're going to get to pick him.
All right, I'm going same position as you, South. My guy's Devontae Parker. I don't know that he necessarily counts as a sleeper at this point in draft season. Certainly earlier, but I've been on him since late July doing my mocks. And then when they got Jay Cutler, that wrapped it up for me. I think he's going to be fantastic with Jay Cutler trying to stretch the field. He was explosive just in that last game against Philadelphia with a 72-yard catch. Parker's going to make plays all over the field, and I think people who drafted Jarvis Landry ahead of him are going to be unhappy about it. So I'm going Devontae Parker. All right, last thing we want to hit you with. Again, I know this was a long one, but we had a good time here tonight. We're going to hit you with a crazy prediction each. We're going to limit this to 1 minute, no discussion. I'm talking to you, Rocco. 1 minute, no discussion.
You just took 10 seconds.
All right, so an absolutely crazy prediction that you could see coming true this season. Rocco, we'll start with you. Go ahead, man.
I'm going to piggyback off something South said. I think we're actually going to have 3 running backs 1,000. It's only been done 3 times to the point. I think we're going to get 3 of them this year. Obviously, one, David Johnson. The other one, Lev Bell. And I actually like Melvin Gordon in that Los Angeles offense to do it as well.
All right, South, who do you have?
All right, listen, in 2009, Chris Johnson went for 2,509 yards from scrimmage. I tried this last year with David Johnson. It didn't look as crazy at the time afterwards. This year, Le'Veon Bell goes for 2,600 plus combined yards.
Wow.
If he plays 16 games, there's no reason to think that he can't run for 1,400 at minimum and then catch for over 1,000 as well. He's an absolute monster. He's got something to prove. He wants to get paid. He wants to show the Steelers that they cannot move on from him. 2,600 combined plus from Le'Veon Bell.
All right, Deal. What do you got?
I'm going to keep talking about running backs because that's what we should always talk about. And this first part is not quite as crazy, but a little bit. I think there are going to be 9 rookie running backs that are full-time starters this season that are going to play more than 1 game starting. But I think there are going to be 15 or possibly 16 if the Eagles start 2 rookies, which won't be a shock. But there's going to be 15 rookie running backs start and get the majority of the carries at least 1 game this season. And not only that, they're going to be 6 of those rookies are going to be in the top 25 in fantasy points, along with 5 players that are over the age of 29, which I usually don't side with. There's going to be 11 players that are either rookies or over 29 in the top 25 for running backs this season.
Whew, that was hard to follow.
I heard a lot of numbers, and
all I heard was Corey Clement is awesome.
Yep, he's going to be one of the starters along with Pumphrey for 16.
All right, mine. NFL's current single season receptions record is held by Marvin Harrison, who had 143 catches, which is just 1 catch shy of averaging exactly 9 per game. This season, not only will we get 16 games, not only will we end the full season with all of our organs intact, as well as our tendons in our knees and our ligaments in our knees, Keenan Allen is going to finish this season with over 160 catches.
Oh, my God.
10 per game. The last 2 years, obviously, not a lot to go on, but he was on pace. 2 years ago, after 8 games, he was on pace to lead the league in receptions. Last year, he played a half of football and had 6 catches in his half. So obviously, no, you can't just say that's 12 per game. That's huge. But loves to throw the guy the ball. He's got amazing hands. If his kidneys could only keep up with his hands, he'd be in great shape. But we're going with Keenan Allen, 160 plus in the receptions category.
Just real quick, if
I
that
feel like
happens,
if
that happens, I will vomit this cup up and eat it again.
Yo, we just keep saying enough stuff. He's eventually going to have to eat that cup.
Eat that cup.
I feel like I feel the same way about you and Keenan Allen. If you just keep throwing it out there, eventually, if you're right one time,
that's right. That's all I need. I should have just stopped with he's going to play 16 games. That's a crazy enough prediction. All right, so hey, that's going to do it for this edition and the fun of tonight with this podcast. Thanks as always for checking in on YouTube. For those of you who did, Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications of when we're going live every week. Important to note that with the season coming up, we are now moving back to Tuesday nights at 9:30. Guys, believe it or not, next week's the week 1 preview. We made it.
Praise God.
We made it. All right. You can subscribe. Check us out on iTunes, TuneIn, Libsyn, Google Play, way more places that I can't even think of at this point in the evening after a 13-hour workday. We do know some of you may be still drafting your fantasy leagues this week. So we've once again, as of today, had a final update of our rankings over on footballgoons.com. So check those out. See how high your boy Kareem Hunt went. Keep up with us on social media, facebook.com/footballgoons, and on the Twitter @footballgoons. We want to hear from you, so send us questions, comments, concerns, whatever you want as it comes up in regular or fantasy football. Thanks again for your time and for tuning in, and as always, we'll catch you next time.